Let's bring in Emma James now here with MediaWatch with more reaction to this situation in Istanbul. Of course, triple suicide bombing, 41 dead. And people, well, there's frustration amid the pleas for people to pray for Istanbul.
Yes, I think the fact that we have had so many terror attacks within the last year, 2 years, that people now are simply running out of patience with the fact that nobody seems to have a solution. We are seeing the same phrases that we have seen many times that have become really the normal reaction online. Je suis Istanbul, this drawing from the French cartoonist Noder, and also the hashtag pray for Turkey has been used very widely too. But as this Twitter user points out, unfortunately, this picture doesn't require a caption, but the list of dates keeps on growing. Looking elsewhere, this Twitter user points out something that quite a few people were saying last night. And it is a common criticism that emerges whenever there's a terror attack somewhere other than Europe or the USA. And what they were saying is that the coverage simply isn't as extensive as it is whenever something happens elsewhere.
They're saying Turkey gets ignored, is that it?
Pretty much. They're saying that the expressions of solidarity, that media coverage is not blanket coverage that you get, as we did with Orlando, as we did with the Paris attacks, and as we did with Brussels. They say that it's much less high profile. But is it true? Well, The Independent has been looking at this particular issue, and they point out that the Turkish President, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, certainly is among those who believes that this is true. He's urged the rest of the world to see the target could have been London, Berlin, Chicago, any city, any airport around the world, because he feels that the international reaction has been muted. Now, one factor that could influence the way in which people see how much it's being talked about is the fact that Turkey itself, by court order, actually blocked many news sites and Twitter and Facebook within an hour of those attacks happening. Now, what the court said was that detailed images of the scene and information about the suspects could damage the criminal investigation. They also say it could spread fear and panic, which is actually what terrorist groups want to happen, and that it may even harm society as a whole. So you can see their reasons for doing it, but it does help to create this feeling that not so many people are talking about it.
It seems to be somewhat contradictory, this position.
A little bit, yes. Elsewhere, though, you do see the reason why some people raise this concern. This Twitter user has put together the 4 front pages from Le Parisien after the attacks in Paris, Brussels and Orlando. As you can see, those 3 images, 3 front pages, very much dominated by those stories, as you would expect. But this morning, the front page has a story about the scourge of thefts by con artists and a large image of football players, because, of course, we are in the midst of Euro 2016. So
it's the bottom right one there, isn't it? On the
bottom
wall,
right there, and there's a small red box on the side which shows that is the mention of the attack in Istanbul.
Nothing.
And it is very different. You can see that very clearly, very easily. This Twitter user also pointing out that 20 Minutes published this on Twitter earlier today, saying that there are 2 lightly injured French people in the attack in Istanbul, and what he has to say on it is that it shows contempt for human suffering in one phrase.
OK, you and I here last night covering this story worked until the wee small hours, so Frans van Kat, I hope you feel doing the part and covering it well, but you can see from the evidence of the newspaper you showed, clearly there is a gap between people's expectation of what is actually happening. Tell us about the Brexit issue. Let's move on now. Dominating the European news agenda, of course, and expected to for some time. Broken promises, the theme you've got for us.
Yes, a lot of us are moving on to the issues of leadership battles, EU negotiations, all those kind of elements. But a lot of the left-wing publications in the United Kingdom are still looking at those campaign promises, the misjudgments, mistakes, the U-turns, however you want to express these particular terms. The New Statesman has put together what it's called its crisis issue. This is their front page with an image of Boris Johnson and a Pinocchio-style nose with the headline, "The Brexit Lies." And inside, Helen Lewis has written an article in which she says the Leave campaign promised us all a unicorn, but now claim they just hinted at the possibility of a Shetland pony. The Guardian newspaper, another left-wing publication, says, of course, the Brexiters didn't have a plan. Arsonists never carry water. Now, elsewhere in the world, some people are coming up with a few solutions for the Brits who are wanting to remain within Europe. This Romanian publication, Gandul, has come up with Romanians adopt Romanians. And they basically said that leave the Brexiters, the quarrelling and the weather behind. The good people who voted Remain and share European values deserve to be our relatives. They've even mocked up some identity cards for people, and basically what they've done is added an Escu to the end of people's surnames.
Emma James Escu, I like
Exactly.
it. Very good. Finally, Paris, recognising a group of football fans for their contribution, happy contribution, we must add, to Euro 2016.
Yes, not too many.
Not the English fans, not the Russian fans.
How did you guess? It is, of course, the Irish fans. There have been many viral videos of them throughout Euro 2016, of them singing, of them changing people's tyres, generally being thoroughly nice people while having a great time and getting quite drunk too into the bargain. Now Paris, or namely Anne Hidalgo, the mayor of Paris, wants to thank them for bringing all this joy to the streets of France, and is awarding them the Medal of Paris. Now, it's not yet certain whether it's going to be given to the Irish ambassador or whether she's going to invite a delegation of Irish fans along. But if you missed these videos and you want a bit of an idea exactly why the Green Army has proved so popular, let's take a look at this.
So I got the fans singing "Stand Up for the French Police," which is a nice gesture, and the
Yes.
police officer sang through his microphone.
Go home for the French police. Not terribly tuneful, it has to be said, but for definitely 10 out of 10 for effort. Funnily enough, it has even been rubbing off on some of the French fans because they've actually been doing the same thing. After their game against Ireland in Lyon, they were seen singing "Stand Up for the French Police," which is quite an unusual sentiment in this country at this moment in time. There does seem to be an awful lot of bad press for the police, but there were images of fans, French fans, shaking hands and hugging French police in the wake of that match. So maybe, although Ireland's out, they've left behind a little of their joie de vivre.
Football has a lot of ground to make up in terms of that kind of spirit, and let's see that the Irish fans obviously get their just rewards, that medal, and let's hope it rubs off on others, as you say. Emma, thank you very much indeed. I think we've all got Irish descent around the table, so let's hope that spirit stays here at France 24. Emma, thanks.